So I talked about three types of human development in this unit, religion and human development. And it's more or less I was answering the question, demonstrate the various forms of human development and show their respective relevance in religious society. And you see, in attempting to answer that question, I talked about the psychological perspective. I talked about the second one as biological perspective. And the last one, I talked about economic perspective of human development. I should now start with economic perspective. From an economic perspective, human development is both a process and an outcome. It is concerned with the process through which choices are enlarged, but it also focuses on the outcomes of enhanced choices. Human development, thus defined, represents a simple notion, but one with far-reaching implications. First, human choices are enlarged when people acquire more capabilities and enjoy more opportunities to use those capabilities. So human development seeks not only to increase both capabilities and opportunities, but also to ensure an appropriate balance between them in order to avoid the frustration that a mismatch between the two can unfortunately create. Second, as already implied, economic growth needs to be seen as a means, albeit an important one, and not the ultimate goal of development. Income makes an important contribution to human well-being, broadly conceived. If its benefits are translated into more fulfilled human lives, but the growth of income is not an end in itself. What does that mean? It is not enough to have a lot of income anyway. There are other issues at play that makes you a happy person. And that is where religion comes in when we are talking about economic development. That human development concept, by concentrating on choices, implies that people must influence the process that shape their lives. They must participate in various decision-making processes, the implementation of those decisions, and their monitoring and adjustment to improve outcomes where necessary. In the ultimate analysis, human development is development of the people. Whether you call it economic, it is still development of the people. Is it Nyerere who was saying roads, good infrastructures, all those? They are not development. They are means of development. Development is the people themselves. Okay? It's supposed to be development for the people, of the people, and for the people. Something that makes these people happy. Now, if you build a school where people have no water, people will not appreciate that form of development. They need water first, the basic first, something to put in their stomach. So first development is ensure food security, that people are food secure. So the development for the people and development by the people is the real development. It is not about infrastructure per se, though they are very important. As Nyerere once said, the Julius Nyerere, the president of Tanzania, once said, all these are means of development. So if you develop people spiritually, you develop people psychologically, that is the first beginning of development. Of course, pure economics may want to talk about, or will always measure via or the so-called capitalism without human face, may want to focus on the materials and the productivity in that society. But that we are trying to say, that is not enough. You need build there. You need more than that. You need something built there. Development for the people implies that the benefits of growth must be translated into the lives of people, and development by the people emphasizes that people must be able to participate actively in influencing the processes that shape their lives. So that is one perspective in understanding human development, the economic bit. Going to biological perspective of human development, you see that human development is a process of growing to maturity. In biological terms, this entails growth from one-celled zygote to an adult human being. So fertilization occurs when the sperm successfully enters the ovum's membrane, and the genetic material of the sperm and egg that combine to form a single cell called a zygote, and the germinal stage of prenatal development commences. The germinal stage refers to the time from fertilization through the development of the early embryo up until implantation. The germinal stage is over at about 10 days of gestation. And we can go on and talk about the zygote and all that I don't want to get into. Now you can see there on your screen I posted for you the stages in prenatal development. The prenatal, egg, birth, all that. The blastocyst, the post-implantation embryo, all that is on your screen. The approximate outline of development periods in child development, how we grow, it is on your screen in details. And we're going to tell you that a young child can be 0 to 9 years, pre-teenage 10 to 12 years, teenager 13 to 19, 20-something, that is 20 to 29, 30-something, 30 to 39, 40-something, 40 to 49, formerly that is formerly quadragenarian, rarely used since 1980. There is also the 50 to 59. We need to pronounce it properly there. I don't know how you pronounce it. Can somebody pronounce it there? Quinquagenarian. That's the 50 to 59. Sexagenarian, 60 to 69. Septuagenarian, 70 to 79. Octogenarian, 80 to 89 years old. Nonagenarian, 90 to 99. Centenarian, 100 to 109. That is where one of our senior leaders, is it Sir Charles, is. Yes. And he's centenarian, 109 years old, above 100 years. There is also supercentenarian, 110 years to is it Noah's age, 900 years. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. There is also the Turner stages, which can be used to approximately judge a child's age based on physical development. So that is a biological, and I said ours is not biological in this religion and development class. Ours is basically religion and psychology. But we are not saying we don't have the other 2 units that can be covered by other people or in another class altogether, even as we cover it in another class. But not this one. This one is psychology and human development. For psychology in respect to religion and human development. So coming to our last dimension of human development, which is nothing but psychological perspective, I had already noted before the interruption I got, is that psychologically, human development, the process of growth and change that takes place between birth and maturity. And then we said human growth is far from being a simple and uniform process of becoming Torah or Raja. Okay? It's far from being a simple, because there are psychological issues. The adolescent psychology, the child psychology, the teenage psychology, the adult psychology, There are a lot of issues in psychology that religion cannot be left out, because religion or theology does not operate in a psychological vacuum or in developmental vacuum. These are human sciences that affect human beings. And so a religious person cannot say, I don't need psychology. In fact, who needs psychology than a religious practitioner? It is you who needs it more than anybody else. So, as a child gets bigger, there are changes in shape that comes in, and in tissue composition and distribution. In the newborn infant, the hand represents about a quarter of the total length. In the adult, it represents about 1/7. In the newborn infant, the muscles constitute a much smaller percentage of the total body mass, than in the young adult. Now, in most tissues, growth consists both of the formation of new cells and the packing in of more protein or other material into cells already present. Early in development, cell division predominates and later cell filling. Okay? So we can say that changes in height of the developing child can be thought of in two different ways. The height attained at successive ages and the increments in height from one age to the next, expressed as rate of growth per year. If growth is thought of as a form of motion, the height attained at successive ages can be considered the distance traveled, and the rate of growth, the velocity. Now, the velocity or rate of growth reflects the child's state at any particular time better than does the height attained, which depends largely on how much the child has grown in all preceding years. Now, the blood and tissue concentrations of those substances whose amounts change with age are thus more likely to run parallel to the velocity rather than to the distance curve. In some circumstances, indeed, it is the acceleration rather than the velocity curve that best reflects physiological events. In general, the velocity of growth decreases from birth onward, and actually from as early as the 4th month of fetal life. But this decrease is interrupted shortly before the end of the growth period. At this time, in boys from 13 to 15 years, there is marked acceleration of growth called the adolescent growth spurt. From birth until age of 4 or 5, the rates of growth in height declines rapidly, and then the decline or deceleration gets gradually less, so that in some children the velocity is practically constant from 5 or 6 up to the very beginning of the adolescent spurt. A slight increase in velocity is sometimes said to occur between about 6 and 8 years. This general velocity curve of growth in height begins a considerable time before birth. The peak velocity of growth is reached at about 4 months after the mother's last menstruation. So, age in the fetal period is usually reckoned from the first day of the last menstrual period, an average of 2 weeks before actual fertilization, but as a rule, the only locatable landmark. So, we wanted to look at the three perspectives of human development, and we now want to ask ourselves, where does religion come in the three perspective of human development. That is biological, psychological, and economic development. Now, religion comes in all of them. Although our emphasis will be on psychology, where we shall look at adolescent psychology, child psychology, how children get into gangs at a certain age. We shall also look at Bowlby's attachment theory, where he says that the caregivers have a very critical impact on what a person will become. If your caregiver is a weakling academically or intellectually, is that person who is so close to you may affect what you become intellectually or socially or whatever it is. If you are abused, that has its own psychological effect. And even when you are in a religious institution, there are sense in which we shall tell this guy somewhere on the way she was abused. She was well nursed or taken care of or given appropriate care. So all these beginnings of life are very, very important to you and to every one of us. We need a rich beginning. We are going to stop there, and we will stop there for now. Thank you very much.